Good morning and welcome to another episode of Blexit PA podcasting. I'm your host, Ralph Jones. I am one of the City of Philadelphia coordinators. Today we have two special guests. We have a new member, Marco Satchel, and Marlene Downing, who's returning from a podcast we did last year. Yes, I know it's been a long time since we've done a podcast. A lot's been going on. We've changed kind of like venues. We have TPU is our sponsor now for Blexit, and we've got some things going on that we're going to talk about after we interview Marlene. So first, let's get with our Marco. We want to welcome Marco as Philadelphia City Coordinator. Marco, welcome. Tell us a little about yourself.
Thank you, Ralph. Well, first of all, I'm just happy to be here. I want to give a shout out to Ralph, of course, and Antoine, our Assistant State Director, and Diane, our State Director, for taking me under their wing and allowing me to be part of the team here at Blexit. And just a little bit about myself and how I came to become part of Blexit. I grew up in a two-parent household with, growing up in the church, and I've always had that background. And but as I grew older and I started to follow the things that were on television, follow the things that were in the media. I became more of a, left-leaning person as far as cultural ideologies, politics, everything, you could name it. And I would say probably wasn't up until maybe the 2016 election cycle that I started to delve more into these ideas, these ideologies, the politics and the culture, and just the way that it affected outcomes in the Black community specifically. And as I started to do more and more research, I started to realize that, I felt like I had been on the wrong side of history for all this time. It was something I took very personally because, I had felt like I had almost been, duped and led astray. And it was because of that I just had this strong urge to, combat these ideas, a strong urge to see what it is that I could do in my community to try to not only help fight these ideologies, but also put our youth in a position where, they're armed with the tools themselves, not only to succeed, but to pass on a mentality of victors rather than a mentality of victimhood, which is what you can see a lot of people that talk about Black issues, a lot of prominent people in the Black community that speak about issues. They'll want us to have this mindset, this idea that, we're oppressed in the country. We're oppressed in the United States of America, and America is a racist country. And it's funny to me because it always seems like it's the most well-educated, the most well-off, and the most successful of our own community that are looking at our youth and going to the universities and speaking and writing books telling us, hey, you guys can't do what I did because of oppression or because of racism or because of whatever reason. And I live in the mind state where rather than tell us that, why don't you give us the goods? Yes. Why don't you tell us what you did to be in the position that you have, where you have the platform to tell us that we can't do it? And I feel like at the end of the day, if you could strip down all the reasons why somebody may or may not have been successful, a lot of times what it's going to boil down to is not the color of your skin. What it's really going to boil down to is what type of person are you? How much work are you willing to put in? What are your morals? All of these things factor into whether or not a person is going to be successful. And if you could list the amount of things that would either make you successful or not, I feel like the color of your skin would probably be very low on that list. You could come up with maybe 10, 20 other reasons why somebody may or may not be successful way before you get to the idea that it's just their race. Right. It's just their color. It's just the United States is a racist country. So that being said, I was looking for a way for me to take these ideas that I had and put them into action. And I'm going to be honest with you, I felt like God himself had led me to the organization of Blexit. And when I first started looking into Blexit, I was first introduced to them by a documentary by a man by the name of Larry Elder. You may know Larry Elder as the 2024 presidential candidate running for election right now. You may have seen him on The Breakfast Club, torching the people on The Breakfast Club
yeah.
about some of these same ideas. So he came out with a documentary called Uncle Tom, which really, it's almost the same thing that I'm talking about here. It really gives a fundamental idea that we can do anything that we want as long as we do it with God in mind and we do it, to the best of our ability. And we're living in the greatest country on God's green earth where you have the opportunity for upwards mobility, and especially for a black man. And you could count every single country in Africa, you've got a better chance of making it here in America. In fact, what most people don't realize, if you took black America and you separated that population from the rest of the population of America, and you looked at the populations of the rest of the world and you saw who made the most money, we still would be in the top 15.
Yeah.
Black America alone.
Yep.
So that's a thing that people need to consider when they're thinking, well, maybe this country is too racist for black people to make it, or whatever the case may be. Well, if that's the case, explain to me why we've got thousands and thousands of people breaking their necks to get over here. Yeah. I don't see thousands and thousands of black people leaving America for better opportunity, because the reality is this is the land for opportunity. Yeah. And yeah, so I joined Blexit with an idea that I was going to be able to make a change in the community, and I thank God for Blexit, as an organization, to lay the foundation for me to spread these ideas to the youth, and to also, actually go out there and physically put these ideas into action with different programs, and just bringing it to life. And education is a huge part of that. And we do have 4 pillars in Blexit, actually 5 pillars, but the main 4 pillars being, 1, school choice. Now, school choice is a big topic for me, one that I'm very passionate about. And when I say school choice, I'm talking about school choice in the urban community for black children. As you can see, there are places in America right now where students already have school choice. And for those who don't really know what it is, basically what it is you get a certain amount of money that will follow each student, and it will go into the public school systems and to the teachers unions, and it will help pay for their education. So our idea is, rather than have that money go directly to the public schools and teachers unions, why not let the money follow the child and give the parent an opportunity to decide what educational choice or option will be better for their child based on, what they think is best. And, I feel like not only will it give black children an opportunity to get a better education in maybe a better school, but also it almost creates a financial incentive for the public schools and the teachers unions to clean up their act, to do more things to make sure that children are getting a better education, rather than what you can see now, Ralph, is they're almost lowering the standards.
Yes, lowering the standards. Yeah.
They're lowering the standards in order to just pass the kids, so it makes it look like they're not failing our children. But in reality, what's happening is these teachers unions, the public school, there's no financial incentive for them to do better, so they're just as okay with failing the children.
Well, let me ask you something, not to cut you off, but let me ask you something. Funny you should mention that. What do you think about the looting that happened the last couple of days? And who were they that were looting?
Right. So over the last few days here in Philadelphia, we've had a lot of looting going on, and this was due to...
We made national news.
Yeah, we made the national news. It was due to a man being shot by the police and the police officer being acquitted. Now, in this particular case, I'd actually seen the video of what happened, and I myself am surprised that they would acquit the police officer. But what we see is, rather than people coming together and saying, we need to, like as one of our pillars, we need better criminal justice reform. What they do is they go out, they loot, they rob their own communities and their own neighborhoods. Yeah. And nobody's thinking about the long-term effects of what's going to happen when the businesses decide they want to no longer have their companies here. Now we're losing jobs. Now, our venues for which we can get supplies that we need, food or whatever. They're all shutting down, and it's creating more and more food deserts. It's hardly enough supermarkets as it is in our neighborhood. And I myself, I work at a family medical practice. I've been managing a family medical facility for the last 20 years, and one way that I've seen it affecting, the population is a lot of drugstores are closing down. A lot of pharmacies are closing down, and they're being targeted specifically because criminals think that they can go in there and they can steal drugs. And what does that do? Well, if, grandma has been going to Rite Aid for the longest time. Now all of a sudden the Rite Aid shuts down. Grandma's got to find a new place to get her medications. Hopefully it's a place that would deliver it the way that she needed. Hopefully it's a place that she can get to. Hopefully it's a pharmacy that works with her insurance company that's going to cover her medications. There's all these other factors that come into the outcomes of this disastrous rioting and evil behavior, and there's almost no accountability for it. I ask myself, like, where are the parents?
Right. Well, let me ask you that. That's a good question. So what do you think the mindset of young Philadelphians are today?
They're angry. It's obvious that they're angry, and whether or not I feel like they're angry for the right reasons, I do feel that they have a right to be angry when you think about, just some of these things that I talked about, the way the education system has failed them, the way the criminal justice system has failed them. And, they've I hate to use the word, but they've literally been brainwashed into these ideologies. Like before, how I was saying that, we teach that you're not a victim, that you're not oppressed. Well, they feel like they are victims. They feel like they are oppressed, and they feel like their only way to show their anger and their emotion is to do things like rioting and destroying their own community. And when you look at the BLM riots from that summer a few years ago, it almost set a precedent where you can go out, you can do all these rioting, and there's not going to be any consequences.
Yeah, that's true.
And even now, we see there was a young girl by the name of Meatball who was live streaming as she was inciting the riot. And everyone feels sorry for Meatball now because she got arrested. Well, at the end of the day, Meatball, I mean, what you shouldn't have been doing was inciting. You shouldn't have been down there rioting in the first place. I mean, that solves nothing. It only brings more detriment to your community. And you shouldn't have been posting it online, And if it weren't for the fact that, so many riots went with no consequences just a few years ago, she probably wouldn't have been in the mind state that I could get away with this. So, but these are kids. They're impressionable. They do what they see. And if they don't see any consequences for their actions, then they will jump in and do exactly what they see, even if it's a detriment to their community.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. This last question before we go. So you're, as we got together with you, you had some ideas. Can you share two of the ideas and two of the programs you're trying to work on? So we're pressed for time. So give it to us in like 2 minutes.
All right. So one of the ideas that I came up with is we're going to use my facility for an educational venue. And this venue, we're going to try to do classes based on the 4 pillars of Blexit to try to teach the youth and help them grow and help them become productive adults in the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to be in Kensington this afternoon, helping out with the homeless and with people that are on drugs. So if you can join us, we would love for you to be there with us. We're coming back with Marlene Downing after this message. Thank you. Welcome back. We would like to welcome back Marlene Downing, who was with us, I think, around this time last year. Am I not correct, Marlene? We were around here. Let's see.
Ooh.
It's been a long time,
Yeah.
and a lot has happened. So first about Marlene, in honor of our September initiative, Protect the Preborn, we proudly, Blexit PA, proudly welcomes back author, public speaker, and pro-life activist Marlene Downing.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
So, Marlene, it's been a long time, and I remember our episode was about Roe versus Wade being overturned,
Yes.
and how um, what the backlash was and what everything was. And I thought that we should do a podcast on what it meant for Pennsylvania when it came to abortion and what everybody was talking about. Basically, the water cooler, is that what it is? I don't know if anybody sits at the water cooler anymore talking. But that was one of the reasons why we reached out to you then, and it was a very awesome. Of course, I did. Of course, it was a very awesome podcast. I'm going to link it in the bio, and you can look it right here, and you can grab it. So, Marlene, let's start off with a few things.
Sure.
For those of you who don't know, from the last podcast, we did talk with Marlene, and we went into some things, and we talked about the book, or we mentioned the book.
I don't believe we mentioned the book then.
Okay. And what we want, Marlene, for those of you who have not watched the video, we want Marlene to tell us a little bit how she came about into the pro-life movement.
Yeah. So I came about into the pro-life movement exactly the way that I'm actually in the pro-life movement, what I'm here for, through abortion. I am a 2-time abortion victim, I will say, because I was a victim of the culture, and believing that that's something that I had to do in order to, just gain my way, and just be able to survive, basically. I ended up being in situations where I, was pregnant and I wasn't feeling like I had the resources to continue on. And the main thing that, the culture for us in the African American community, I would say, will say to us is that if you're not ready, abortion is available to you. It's crazy because I began at a pregnancy center later on in life. And if I had a pregnancy center, which there are amazing organizations that help with resources for unplanned pregnancies, if I had a pregnancy center at that time, then I don't think that I would have had the abortions that I had. But at the time I felt alone and that I did not have the support. The men weren't going to be involved. So I thought, and so I took matters into my own hands, which caused a lot of trauma with that. So later on, I started going to church and my faith grew, and I ended up regularly going to church, which really taught my pastor who I was, basically showing him that I was, a leadership person. I never knew that he was taking a look in that way. But one day we went for a March for Life, and he passed me by and he was like, "Hey, we're looking for a person to direct the pregnancy center." And I'm like, "Me?" I'm looking around like, "You are not talking to me." And so I didn't take it seriously at first. I was working for a corporate organization for 10 years. And one day I said, "Lord, if you really want me to do this, give me a sign." So this one girl who was an atheist came to my desk. I was in a cubicle, and I would always have people come over because I would have my Bible all the time. So they would come over like I'm the counselor. So they would say, this young lady told me the story of her daughter. She said, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." She said, "But your daughter has a boyfriend now and she's young." She was like, "But I would be careful with that." She said, "Because my daughter got pregnant when she was 15. And because she got pregnant, she was like, I told her whatever it is that she wanted to do, I would be there for her. My daughter wanted to have her child." So I was like, "That's amazing. You have a beautiful grandchild now." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "But because she had her child, I aborted my child." And so that day, I gave my resignation. I gave my 2 weeks, and I had interviewed and a lot happened, but I ended up being the director, director of operations first for the Hope Pregnancy Center, and then I ended up being the executive director. And then God gave me another mission. So that mission, he told me, it's time to go. And Hope Center was like my Isaac. I loved, being there. I loved counseling the women. I loved giving them advice and helping with the unplanned pregnancies, giving them resources. We helped people with homelessness. We gave them information about maternity homes. We gave them ultrasounds. We saved so many lives. And for God to tell me that it's time to go was like a huge thing for me. But I literally went on a fast and I had to obey. And so that's how I got into being the state director. I'm the Pennsylvania state director for a national political organization now that fights for the unborn.
So what, if anything, has changed in Pennsylvania since overturning Roe v. Wade?
So, the changes that have happened, I guess the climate has really increased in hostility towards the pro-life movement. Whereas before, people kind of, just let things go because they basically were going about their lives. Now it's something that's public, and the Band-Aid was ripped off of America. And here you are, you have 63 million babies that have lost their lives. Well, they have parents, right? So if you times that by 3, then you have the real state of impact on America. And so people justify it just by, just what they're feeling. They have been a part of this, and it's either you're for it or you're against it. And many of them want to be against it because they feel like, how can they say something to somebody? How can they stop someone from having an abortion if they've had one themselves? But I look at it like, if you are a person who's committed murder, right, and you go to jail, you spend that time in jail, you have that time to reflect on the thing that you've done. And now you come out and you become like this reformed person, and you're like, hey, to the youth, you might say, hey, I did this. I regret it. Don't do it. Abortion is the only thing that people regret that they will never tell anybody not to do. They'll say, I regret it, but you do what you need to do. And that's just so, it just blows my mind. The other thing is that they have weaponized the abortion pill. Currently, with the medical abortions, with surgical abortions that are happening, are actually, it's terrible to say this, but they're safer than the medical abortions, because now, because they were afraid when Roe versus Wade was overturned that they were going to be shut down, they created, this whole impact and influx of abortion pills to go out into the pharmacies, and they don't even have to have a doctor's appointment.
Right.
They don't,
That's
have
true.
to be seen. So, yeah, it's just so much that's happening, even on the sidewalks with the pro-life movement, people going to the abortion facilities. They have actually mobilized this whole group of people called abortion defenders. And so they have the clinic escorts, which escorts the women into the abortion clinics. And then they have the abortion defenders that are paid, I believe, but they come out in droves. And these people will come out with clappy hands and chickens and they just have their way to antagonize or just be
Well, funny you should say that, because
Yeah.
I wanted you, Marco, because you and Marco Marco met you down there. So Marco has a few questions I want him to.
yeah.
Yeah. So I actually had the opportunity to go down there with you and see what it's like firsthand. And for me, my personal experience being the first time down there, one thing that I can definitely take from it, and this is what I've told people about it, is never before had I seen the lines so clearly drawn
Yeah.
between good and evil. And down there that day, it was us. There was a few other groups down there praying, and then on the other side, you had the advocates for the clinic, if you want to call it that. And I remember being up there and you saying, well, today is actually kind of like a light day compared to some of the types of things that we see down here as far as the antagonizing from the other side. Can you explain to us just a little bit more of like some of the crazier things that you've seen down there from the other side as far as their antagonizing and pushing their pro-choice agenda?
Yeah, it's so sad. Like what happens is anything that they can do to make it uncomfortable for you to not talk to these women as they go in. Now people have a misunderstanding about what people are doing out there. Basically, it's not to yell at somebody to tell them, don't kill your baby. Like, even though, there are some that say it, which is very true. Like, this is a child, don't kill it. But for the most part, we're letting them know this is the last chance that you have to turn around. Yes. And why is that such a crime? Like, that should not be a crime. But what the escorts will do is they'll get in their ear and they'll, just be very, very loud in their ear so that they don't hear us. So those are the things that they do. It's kind of like I was telling you, Marco, when you were out there, it's like kind of like the little devil on your shoulder.
Right.
Like it's like they walk so fast with them, and like they're and the women are laughing as they're going in because they're making them laugh. They're making it a whole laughing matter, and they're not even taking into effect the seriousness of it. And I bet you when these ladies get upstairs, they truly feel what they're doing, and it's like by that time it's too late. But the reason why I said it was a light day is because some days you might even have like the Catholics will come out and they'll pray, and it's bad, but we don't really have like a whole lot of Protestants that'll come out there, not even a whole lot of African Americans. Like no one really comes out except for a lot of the Catholic people, and the nuns will line up and they'll be praying. No. They turned on Cardi B's WAP.
Whoa.
Like blasting it to the top. And I don't know if you know the lyrics, but we're not even going to go into that. Yeah. So you guys look up WAP, okay?
No,
they played
this
to They played this to nuns that are gosh. So if you care about women, right? So the whole abortion thing is that you care about women, and you have that these women who have consecrated themselves and are supposed to be religious women, you would at least have some even if you're not religious, you would have some sort of respect.
Yes, right.
So it's just that's just one example of what happens.
Well, my executive producer is telling me we've got 2 minutes left, so let's get one more question for you, and then we're going to wrap up.
Sure.
So we've already talked about the tactics that they're using. Do you have, does your organization or do you have any upcoming projects or events that you want us to maybe join you at?
Absolutely. So my organization isn't who is hosting this, but we definitely support it. It's the March for Life. It's in Pennsylvania. So because we're in PA, I definitely want to tell you about that. That's October the 16th. And it's in Harrisburg. So however you get there, is whatever, perfectly fine by bus. We have buses that are going. You can connect with myself or any of the Blexit team, and they can tell you how to get there. But what happens at this March for Life is that we get together as people who are standing in solidarity. And I've been twice to like the National March for Life and also the March for Life in Harrisburg. And it is the most amazing event for you to go to kind of get an understanding of what it looks like all around you for the people that are standing for life. So I would say around the Capitol, October 16th, is the March for Life. We'll have that
in the show notes. And just reach out to us or reach out to Marlene and her organization, and let's get on the bus. Marlene, it's always a pleasure having you come on. We hope that you come on again and share some more things. And Marco, thank you for going to meet up with her. I think we'll have some pictures to post on the website. Today we'll be at in the Kensington neighborhood handing out hope bags It is the safe smoking kits. I think have we seen those before? I think we've seen them before.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take 2 seconds. We're all three of us going to have this question. What's your opinion on pro-choice agenda and impacting women in this community, specifically our community, the Black community?
Specifically, the Black community. I've been at the abortion facilities. I've met with the women in the pregnancy center, so I see like all levels of it. And what I would say is specifically the African American community are the ones that I see the most. So that's why it's so important for us to pay attention to this. We are at 13% of the population in America. Like, do we want to eliminate ourselves?
Well, that's what it seems like, is that we're eliminating ourselves.
Exactly.
And to be honest with you, I don't think as men we kind of have a choice in that because, you know, yes, it's the woman's body, but Marco, do you feel that we should have a choice? It is our kid also.
Yeah, well, I do feel like, you know, the man has a responsibility to the child just as much as it is preborn as it is born. And he should do everything in his will to protect that baby before they were born. And just to touch a little bit on what Marlene was saying earlier about the chemical abortions. Right now, she was saying how the chemical abortions, they are much less safe than the surgical abortions. And when you're talking about a underserved community and they're trying to get as many abortions as possible, then you also have to consider they're going to do it the cheapest way as possible.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing with these chemical abortions is now the death rate for complications from an abortion is 10% higher with chemical abortions. And when we're talking specifically about the communities like in Kensington, where you have a lot of people that are very underserved, drug communities, these people are going to be the front line for the people that are going to receive these chemical abortions in our neighborhood.
Marco, I wanted to slip in abortionreversal.com because people need to know if they take that first pill within 72 hours, they're able to reverse it. I've reversed 4 of them so far with women. So,
All right, music's going. My executive producer's giving me the hand. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you again. Like and subscribe. Thank Marlene for coming out. Our new member, Marco. I'm your host, Ralph Jones, and we're out of here.